Hey, so are you a bass player who plays primarily gospel or Christian music and you play for your church, that kind of thing? You've been playing for a while and you're looking to add more to your playing, but you don't want to overplay. Well, you're watching the right video, because in this video, I'm going to show you how to add more to the song without overplaying. So stay tuned. All right, guys, so welcome back to another lesson. If you've been keeping up, I've been doing this series talking about driving the songs, how to get good at driving the songs. In doing this series, something has come up that I wanted to really address, especially for people who have been taking the things that I've been talking about in the previous lessons. If this is your first lesson, it's totally cool. We're going to give you some things here, and you can always go back and watch the other lessons as well. But if you've been keeping up, we've been talking about some little elements you can add here and there, and I really hope that you've been implementing these things as I've been giving them to you. But in this video particularly, I want to lean into the idea of not overplaying the song. Don't kill the song, that kind of idea when we're adding these things, because there's this thought where, okay, what can I do to make the song better? There's this thought that I hear from a lot of different bass players. They want to always know, how can I make it my own? What can I do to make it better, and that kind of thing? And that's not a bad thought, but we have to make sure that we're mindful of the song when we're having these thoughts. We never want to do anything that takes away from the song. For this lesson today, I'm going to be using a really common song that many of us have played in church, and especially if you play gospel music. We Have the Victory. We're going to be doing it in the key of E flat. And by the way, I've been doing a lot of these backing tracks lately. If you guys are wanting to know how to find these tracks, because I've been seeing it in the comments, is really the only reason I'm addressing it. I've been seeing it in the comments. You guys want to know how to get these tracks. Well, they are available on my website. I will put a link to that below. And even with this particular song, I did a course where I break down how to play this and other songs, other hymns and that type of thing. If you're interested in that, I'll link it at the end of this video. I'll put it in the video description so you can check that out. All right, so let's jump right into it. All right, so you guys get the idea of the song. It keeps going on, keeps repeating, and it's one of those songs that will happen during testimony service, devotion, or those types of things that you guys praise and worship for some of us. And so the idea of, okay, how can I play this song, add to it without taking away from this song? All right, so for point number one, let the groove settle. As you guys heard me playing in the beginning of the song, I barely did anything in that first half of the song. I just wanted to allow the groove to settle. And I want to make that point with you guys. When you're playing these simple church songs or congregational testimonial songs, that kind of thing, let the groove settle first. Now, when I say let the groove settle, that don't mean you can't play anything, you can't add anything to it, but you don't want to take away and start adding substitutions in the first part of the song, meaning replacing the notes with something different and that kind of thing. But like, be a little bit more rhythmic, but still let the groove settle. So I'll show you what I'm talking about in context. So as you hear with that, I'm playing and I'm moving, but they are subtle moves. Even though I was playing foundation, it was a little bit more movement. So I'm just saying, when we're talking about letting that groove settle, it doesn't mean that it got to be bare bones, nothing. It just means don't move too far outside of the meat and potatoes of the song. Here's playing the song with absolutely nothing added. So if you can hear with that one, it was basic, bare bones, minimum. Don't add nothing. That's not what I'm saying. And a lot of times I think the dilemma that a lot of us bass players have, especially if you're one of the guys that I think I'm talking to, where you want to play the song, but you don't want to overplay, and people are telling you, well, just play the song. And you say, well, I'm playing the song, but when I play the song, it's like I'm not doing enough. Well, chances are you're probably doing that, where you're just playing bare bones, minimum. And notice if you go back to what I played earlier, there was much more movement, even though I wasn't all over the place. So I'm doing different things like leading into certain notes. So I'm going, so I'm playing octave, 1, 5, instead of in the name of Jesus, I'm going in the name. Notice there's a little bit more happening in my right hand. So I'm using those lead-in notes, the note right in front of the note that I'm going to, so I can go literally every one if I wanted to do. So again, I can do, instead of going, we can lead in 1, 2, 3, 4. So there I'm using my octaves and my fifths. So again, and notice the rhythm, the way that I'm playing. I'm thinking about the rhythm of the song, like the rhythm of the drums, how it feels, and those types of things. And that's helping me to decide what type of rhythmic feel I should have in my right hand. Now, I've talked about this in other lessons, but that whole little thing where we walk up chromatically from the 1 to the 2, I'm not going, I'm using some ghost notes, and I'm kind of muting the string above to get that little feel in the song. I'll do it again slow. And you can hear a slight overtone here because I'm doing it slow. But when I slow it down and do it, and my fingers are alternating when I'm muting those strings above. I'm doing a lot of the muting with my first finger after I get that first note out of the way. And I have done things like using that 5 as a pivot point. But most of the time, I'm just floating over that 5 because I'm not necessarily trying to get that 5 to come out. I just want the note above to give me feel. So in context, that sounds like this. So using the octaves and fifths. And then I work my way back up. So I can do the same thing over that six. So we're using those octaves and fifths, all those ghost notes. We're being really, really subtle over the groove. There's not a lot of licks or anything like that happening in the actual groove, but there are elements that I'm adding to it. And all of this, and I'm still letting that groove settle. I'm just adding little subtle things as I go. Okay, so for point number 2, have good conversation. What do I mean by this? So I'll give you a practical idea of what I mean. When you're talking to somebody, a really, really good conversation that is, and somebody you want to talk to, they get a word in, you get a word in. Based on what they say, you might have a response to add to them. But if one of the parties start talking too much and the other person is not able to get a word in, then that conversation kind of goes downhill really fast. So that same thing should be happening in a musical setting. Even in a church service, you want to be thinking about it in the way of conversation. Anybody who that people enjoy talking to, most of the time they are good listeners. And one of the things I come to find out about a lot of bass students, they kind of listen, but they're like the person in the conversation that's waiting for you to hurry up and be quiet so they can tell you what they're thinking. And we can sometimes do that as players. We don't want to make that mistake. And you're like, hurry up and get through with your point so I can tell you what I wanted to say this whole time. But no, you want to be fully present in the conversation, hearing what the other person is saying, because what that will do creatively is that will give you ideas on how to respond to the person and what they just said, or musically what just happened, or with the vocalist what just happened, with the all these different elements that are going on around you in the moment. You're able to hear things that you weren't hearing before. And when you're listening, each of your bandmates, most of the time, they're trying different things. They're just like you. They're learning. They're trying to explore and see what different they can do. And it's going to trigger things to do. So a lot of things you'll be trying to figure out, I don't know what to add to the song. What's happening around you? And a lot of times, like, think about conversation. You don't plan to go talk to somebody and plan the whole conversation out in your head, especially with somebody that you're cool with, right? When you get there and talk to that person based on the conversation, your response come out right then. So musically, it should be the same thing. You work when you're reading books in school and all these different things, learning how to speak, learning how to put together really good compound sentences and all that, all this type of stuff. We work to learn how to do it, but we don't work to take all of this stuff and throw it on somebody when we're having a conversation with it. You're not doing that unless you're trying to appear to be smarter than what you are, which in most cases, you end up sounding crazy, right? It's like you're doing too much. So in a musical setting, we want to do that same thing. All of this information that we're learning, we're taking this information so we will know how to respond in context when we get in those musical situations. So now based on what's happening in the track, I want to have good conversation. So I'm going to play through this track a couple of times to give you guys context of everything that I've said. So I'm not doing a whole bunch of talking and you're not understanding. I want you to listen to what I'm listening for. And there are things that I'm going to try to catch in the track as we keep going, because I'm going to be listening for other things. And if you do me a favor, go back and rewind after you listen to what I'm doing, and you can better hear, because you might not be able to hear it the first time around, but when you go back and listen to it, you'll be able to better hear what I was picking out. And this is all impromptu for me, so I want to make sure that it's authentic, that you get the real context of what I'm talking about. All right, so and I went for something in that one because I heard that little diminish. That would have been 4/4. Because I know somebody gonna want to know, well, what was you trying to play right there over that half step going up to that flat 5? So tell me who can stand up when we call on that great name, Jesus. Jesus. So I'm going fourth, and this wasn't part of my lesson, but since we're here, so right, 4 steps. I mean 4. And that leads you right into that 5. So that's something that I like to do when I'm playing that song. So let's do it again. 1, 3, 4. So that's something that you can do that doesn't fully take away from the actual song, because what I'm doing essentially there is playing through that chord. And that comes from me listening to that chord and saying, wait a minute, that chord is... I want to play something over that, but I don't want it to take away from the song. So if I can play it and get out of it and get back to the root, I'm still being, I'm still being respectful of the song, getting in, getting out, that kind of thing, having good conversation. So if I can get in there and get out quickly without drawing too much attention to myself, but I do add a little flavor in there that doesn't take away. So and another thing that I did was catching that walk up on the second time. That whole church walk that we do, that turn around. Right? That whole thing. So having good conversation is something you definitely want to do, and it's literally taking your time to listen. Don't be in such a rush to share your idea until you heard everything that's kind of happening in the song. Kind of keep your ideas. Don't throw away your stuff because it doesn't mean it's bad. Just listen to everything that's going on. Listen to everybody that's playing and have that stuff in your mind and not run over people. All right, guys. So the last point I want to make is don't try to prove that you can play. And I'll be really brief with this. I've seen a lot of things amongst, like, I'm not just going to say just younger musicians, because it's not only younger musicians, but you see it more commonly in the younger generation of musicians because we have a very competitive type thing that's going on, especially on social media, YouTube, all these things these days. And people want to prove that they can play, especially if you put all these hours in, working on stuff and finding licks and all these type of things. And I see some older players do it, I guess, as preservation, trying to keep their jobs. They think that this is what people want. I can tell you from my professional experience, at the end of the day, we just want you to be tasteful, play the song. If you do something that's really, really nice musical and it adds to the moment, by all means, give us that. But at the end of the day, don't try to be the hero in the band. If everybody else is kind of laying back in the pocket, playing the song, don't always try to be the guy that's standing out front to be seen. Because now, especially if we're playing in church, we're playing in a Christian or godly, religious environment where it's not about the musicians, then let's make it that. Let's not try to entertain to the point where we lose the essence of what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing. And I think we can't stress this enough as musicians, because it's something with musicians, when we're really good, it's easy for you to want to shine and want the spotlight for yourself. We get it. We know you can play, but have a little restraint when it comes to what we're doing and what we're doing as musicians, as minstrels, serving for the house of God. It's like, be good, be excellent by all means in your skill and playing and here's what I'm not saying. You playing a field, playing a run, playing a role, if you're a drummer, that type of thing, you adding something to the song to make it tasteful every now and again. That's not taking away from the song per se. But if you know your agenda, every time you sit down and pick up this instrument, is to try to get house, what we say back in the day, or trying to, get everybody to get all eyes on you, that type of thing, then you know the motive, the agenda is wrong behind what you're doing. So it's not going to have the effect that you're going for. Now, if you're a solo artist, or if there's an opportunity for you to do that, like if you're posting to YouTube and people are watching to see if you're going to go off and do your thing, then by all means stretch out. If you're on Instagram and that's why people are watching your videos, they want to see how you're going to kill it, stretch out. Those are the places for that. But when it comes to us doing collectively as a band, play as a unit. Don't try to outshine everybody, that type of thing. And these are all of my opinions, all of my thoughts from a professional standpoint. This is not just something I'm saying from the standpoint of only being a bass player. This is coming from a person who's done the music director thing. I am currently still a music producer and songwriter, and also from the standpoint of a minister of music. I understand what it's supposed to sound like and what it's not supposed to sound like. I understand what we're up there doing when we're worshiping, and the audience and congregation, and we're all collectively worshiping together. And when you turn into a one-man show, it loses its essence of what we're trying to do, because it's now not about God anymore. It's all about you. And if we are Christian and gospel bass players and this is our agenda, let's make sure that the priorities are in order. And so anyway, I hope these things have been helpful to you guys in this lesson. If you have any questions, or comments, be sure to comment them below, and do me a favor and like this video and share it. If you guys want to connect with me, I will put a link at the end of this video where you guys can join my mailing list, my email list, where you can kind of stay connected on other information that I share outside of this. And I appreciate you guys for hanging out with me today. Again, I'm Jermaine Morgan, guys, and I thank you. I'm out. Peace.